Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Hey everybody, this is ManuFracture, brand strategist and founder of ManuFracture, here today with another episode of Ambitions of an Agency. Today we're going to talk about, not something so exciting today, but we're going to talk about failure. Failure is constant in entrepreneurship. The more you go for the stars, the more you take on more responsibility, the more failure is going to appear in front of you. And it's a natural it's a natural thing. The more you try this, the more you're going to fail. And to be prepared for when that happens is one of like a rite of passage of an entrepreneur, a rite of passage of any business owner, is to find out how failure happens. And when it comes and it really knocks you off your horse, do something about it immediately. And this is what I'm doing right now. I've been documenting about this client for 6 months now. We've been doing all we can to really find out how we can get him, apartment building owners, these ideal clients that he wants, and it just hasn't worked out. It hasn't, garnered the same effect, as previous projects I've done in the past, because it's new. It had a lot of moving parts to it. It was like, there was ads, there was landing page design, I had to hire freelancers. It was a whole mess, and trying to figure out where the whole thing was, I was definitely overwhelming myself. Or I wouldn't say overwhelming myself, I was biting off more than I can chew in a way that, I didn't know how to deal with. But I tried to keep an optimistic attitude about it. I tried to be positive about it. It was an incredibly important thing to keep positive about it. I show you along for all these videos is that, I tried to keep Tim positive about it. It's like, no, you can do this. I got this, I'm gonna take you to the promised land. I'm gonna do this for you. But sometimes it's just not possible. Whether it's out of your skill set, whether it's out of your way of thinking, or whether it's out of your comfort zone, or whatever the case may be, sometimes you will just not succeed. Even if you put all the moving parts in place for it to happen, you can see along the way that there are some things that you missed, some things that were key and crucial and important that kind of fell apart in the process, and you didn't notice because you were too busy on, thinking, oh, I can do this, I got all the thing figured out, but you didn't figure out that there actually was some key parts, like in an engine, right? Like it's a car engine, right? Let's say a project is like a car engine, and you have all these moving key parts, right? And if one of the key parts goes out of whack, then it destroys the entire system entirely, right? And that is what happened with this project. One thing, or two or three things went out of whack, and the main things suffered because of it. In this case, we had keywords, right? And we didn't know which keywords were proper. We just started creating very specific keywords for no reason, and or we thought that those keywords were so obvious that we went and we actually did that over and over again. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't as simple and easy as that as well. And there was also the fault of there weren't many clientele. There wasn't enough big of a market. 4 or 5 people wasn't that big, so we couldn't really throw a wide net if there was not really a real audience to throw a wide net in front of. There's very key factors in this that I forgot to do, that I forgot to ask in the process, in the strategy, that screwed up the entire thing in general. So that's my fault, and now I have to own it, and I have to go and talk to my client about it and say, listen, I can't do this anymore. I can't, I did my best. I did all what I need to do, but I have to close this project, right? And you have to know, and that's a key skill for an entrepreneur, you have to know when to close a project. You need to know when you close an opportunity up, right? Because if you don't know how to close an opportunity up, you'll be like, it's like a bad relationship. You keep going and going and going, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere, but you keep going because you hope maybe, right? And I don't want to hope anything. I want to make sure that I'm certain about what's going to happen with the project. So if I'm hoping things to happen, and I'm just hoping that my strategy and execution is going to work now, and it's not based off data, and it's not based off things that I know that are important in the process, then I have to close the project. I have to put the nail in the coffin, and I have to say, no, it's over, right? It's a difficult thing to do. So right now, here's what I'm doing. Just show you here. So I'm writing a lengthy email at the moment for Tim, just saying, hey, you know, I couldn't do this because these reasons, you know, and then I offered to get on a call with him to talk about it, but, you know, usually I do like to get on a call with him, but I mean, I don't know if he's busy or not, or, you know, if he is not doing anything at the moment, but, because he's working as well, but I'll just send it to him, offer to get on a call with him to explain more, you know, but I think it just about covers that in that email, right? So hopefully he gets that. If he wants to talk more, we can get on the phone and talk more. I'm always willing to talk with him at the moment, and, you know, really figure out things with him, or just talk to him and say, listen, you know, this is why I couldn't do it. These are why the reasons we couldn't do it. And I was really optimistic about this. I was really, really optimistic about this. I thought that if I just had the data and I had the understanding of these, you know, keywords, and, you know, I changed the copy and the landing page and I do all this stuff, everything would work out just fine, because there was just a key few aspects. But what I didn't realize is that there were very, very main key aspects that I did not cover in this project. And I mean, it's a learning lesson, you know. I've done what I call the post-mortem, and what I'll do is I'll post another video about post-mortem, about, you know, kind of reassessing yourself after a project has gone good or has gone bad, right? So if a project has gone good, you figure out, oh, why was it good, right? And if a project's gone bad, you figure out why was it bad, right? So post-mortem is that. It's like after the project's done, or after the project's dead. In this case, after the project's dead. So that's what I'm going to be doing. If he calls, I'll talk to him. You know, if he doesn't, if he just sends a one-word email like saying, yeah, no, Mario, I get it, it's done, you know, it should be done like that. And yeah, oh man, but it's not as bad as you think. It's, you know, because it opens up a new opportunity. Fact is, I've realized with this project, at least, that real estate is not something that I want to do with, or I want to work with. I don't know, maybe it's just my passions aren't aligned with real estate. And what I realized is also that I may have been just going at it for, if it was a good opportunity, there was money in it, right? And the thing is like, there's money in it, of course there's a ton of people working in this industry. We're working as lead generators, working as people like that. But in actuality, there's only money for people who can solve a valuable problem in that industry. And if I can't solve that, I don't have the skill set, or I don't even have the passion, you know, to do this every day. You know, I have to will myself to do this every day. Then it's not something that I'm willing to do. So I'm looking at other opportunities at the moment. You know, it's interesting because, you know, you never know how a project's going to come out. I did find this incredibly challenging. Like, this is not a typical identity project, so it was bound to fail. I mean, the possibility of failure was at least, I would say, 85%. I was okay with that though, because I knew if I could just get that up to that, you know, and I could, you know, do that, it would work. But in a way, it's a blessing in disguise, because now I don't need to, imagine if I had success with this, and then I'd have to keep becoming this, you know, entrepreneur that does, you know, work with real estate brokers, and that would be it, or this, you know, marketer or designer that does work with real estate brokers, and that would be it, and that would be the end all be all. I don't think I would be happy if I did that. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna send this email out. Let me just, for prosperity, or whatever it's called. Oh, man. Okay. Oh man, maybe I should change something in this. So And, did want this to work out as I never gave. I was a bit very optimistic, as it was quite possible. But now I shouldn't have done that. Yep, it's a bit sad, but I think there's nothing else I can talk to him about. Just be like, listen, this is what it is. I can't do anything about it. That's what it is. And time to move on. Close that chapter. You know, will be interesting though, looking back at it a few years after this is passed. Like, this will be a nice little arc, right? You know, I don't know if you watch, like, you know, well, if you watch stories or you watch episodes, you know, things. I think it's like series, anime series, or you know, what is it? Just series, you know, shows in general. They have things called arcs. For like I went through the optimistic arc late last September and December, like really just going like, yeah, I'm building this business, yeah, and then more realistic arc going like, okay, maybe I'm not, you know, doing very well. Now I'm in the like failure arc, reassessing arc, which is just like, wow, I've built all this stuff, I've done all this research, market research, and it all collapsed on top of me. Like, what happened, right? And so I don't know, maybe that makes the story interesting, right? Because you always have to have a conflict, right? Maybe that's the upside. It's like I get a more interesting story or whatever, right? But, you know, jokes aside, yeah, it doesn't feel as good as failure doesn't feel good, but it is an important part of reassessing and reevaluating, and can be a blessing in disguise if you don't realize it now, but it may be later if you really introspect into it. So yeah, that's it for today. Not very optimistic ambitions of an agency, but one nonetheless. So if you want to see more of this, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you on the next one.